So speaking of the system and the corruption, neoliberalism in action, fam.
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about Bolton, Lord
Lord
Bolton.
Bolton.
Um, he wrote a book, fam. Are you gonna read it?
Hell no. What? When this guy opens his mouth, I get nauseous.
So neoliberals have turned him into a martyr because he wrote this book, and it's just a book. It's called let me see. He was exposing Trump and he basically claimed that Trump was asked if Finland was part of Russia, and he was basically exposing Trump, saying that Trump is dangerous and pounding down on the Russiagate theory. And a lot of neoliberals, of course, came to, oh, at least Bolton is a moderate. At least Bolton is calling
Bolton's a
out Trump.
moderate.
Yeah, the biggest warmonger in history, right?
Yeah.
Um,
So who
and
is
some
that, fam? Is that three now? That's Jeff Sessions, Mitt Romney, and now
mhm,
Lord Bolton, the neoliberals, because of their TDS, are now praising. Sorry for
yeah,
interrupting, but I want to make sure everybody knows the scorecards. Jeff Sessions, Mitt Romney, and Lord Bolton are now. I don't know what to think anymore, fam.
fam, they're terrible. And so there was this tweet that I wanted to show by Save of the Leftist that said liberals are out here buying a book from John Bolton to own Trump. Y'all really got him this time. Like, it just doesn't make sense. John Bolton is one of the biggest warmongers out there. I mean, he was the one driving Trump to go into Venezuela, to go into in regime change.
Iran, Iran.
Iran as well.
He wants regime change with Iran. If it was Bolton and Trump and the roles were reversed, we'd invaded Iran by now, ladies and gentlemen. Get that through your freaking head. He's written articles about going in and removing the evil access of evil. This guy is the biggest. He was also an architect of Iraq. Give me
Yep.
a break.
And I just want to reiterate what his book is called. His book is called The Room Where It Happened, a White House memoir. And it's just, again, he's talking about his time at the White House under Trump. You know, he was fired. Trump fires everybody. And I just think it's ridiculous that a lot of people are buying this book and taking it as if this guy is some sort of like now martyr, and buying a warmonger's book. I mean, he was a national security advisor. I mean, come on. Like Pasta said, Iran was entirely Bolton's doing. And Pelosi, though, had something to say. Nancy Pelosi, of course. Now, she actually criticized him in a way that was very Nancy Pelosi-esque. She actually went after him, saying that he put his book royalties ahead of his loyalties to our Constitution and to our republic. Although he speaks to a fundamental truth about the president's unfitness, the con continues. So let's just hear what Nancy has to say.
Shame on John Bolton for not coming forth during the impeachment. He wants to have a con with the far right by saying, oh, I'm criticizing the Democrats for not going further in the impeachment. But the fact is he refused to receive a subpoena from the House of Representatives. He said he would only receive it from the Senate. Well, he knew the Senate would never issue one. So he chose royalties in his book instead of patriotism to our country, knowing how unfit Donald Trump is to be president of the United States. I don't know if it would make any difference to the Republican senators. I don't know if it would have given him any courage or patriotism to vote differently in terms of impeachment or removal from office. But I think his words would have rung stronger if he had backed them up in the forum when it mattered instead of at the cash register for his royalties. Shame on John Bolton.
So, what do you think of that, fam?
Up. She's such a friggin' idiot. Well, she's pissed off he didn't come forth in the Ukrainian situation for the impeachment. You're still on your bullshit impeachment. Let me tell you something, Nancy Pelosi. You've done worse things in the Ukraine than Donald Trump has. You should be happy he didn't come forth and talk about everything that happened in the Ukraine. Really, I don't care what Nancy Pelosi has to say. She's ridiculous. I mean, I guess I'm happy she's not praising him, but I bet you we can find some neoliberals to praise him, can't we?
I'm sure, but I just want to say I think she is, in a way, subtly praising him. She's saying,
like a backhanded way.
Yeah, like, I mean, she's doing it in a way. I think it's theater, right? Because she's denouncing that he didn't do it soon enough, but she's also saying what he's saying is true. And yeah, even this is okay. So she's keeping up her whole appearance of being the opposition to Donald Trump while simultaneously saying the as national security advisor, who literally is the biggest warmonger in our country, praising him or exposing him is a good thing. I think it's theater. I think it just shows exactly how she is plays the game constantly. Yeah. So people can see her as, oh, I stand opposed to Trump, but yeah, this is true. So believe it and read it.
It's theater that she's giving us.
Theater. So your favorite, Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff went on CNN.
God, I hate this guy.
And he said, as damning as the allegations against the president are in that book, they were equally damning of John Bolton for keeping it concealed at a time it really mattered to the country. Again, this is, I feel, exactly like the same theater that they're playing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, once this guy, if anybody should go to jail, first of all, fam, look at his face, right? I mean, look at that. I mean, he looks like one of those old school white mannequins with the pinky cheeky things over there and stuff. He doesn't even look real, this guy. He's
We're going to play a little bit
on impeachment because you were not willing to wait for a court to decide whether he should testify. You subpoenaed Bolton. He said he wouldn't testify unless a court forced him to honor that. And you didn't move ahead with that because you said, I don't want to spend months and months, tied up in court here, get into the election. It didn't make sense. So what do you say now, accusing you of malpractice because you weren't willing to wait for a court?
Well, it's quite a charade. I give him credit for sheer nerve, because what he is saying basically is there was malpractice in the impeachment because you should have investigated things that I was unwilling to tell you about. And that's pretty breathtaking, but it's Bolton's best effort to do a couple things. One, to try to rationalize why he didn't do his patriotic duty, why his deputies testified, risked their careers. Colonel Vindman may have been passed over for promotion now. They risked their futures when John Bolton decided he was going to fight in court unless he got to save it for his book. So it's an effort to rationalize that. I think it's also an effort to stay in the good graces of Republicans, even as he's trashing the president. None of that reflects well on John Bolton. None of it reflects what a patriot would do. But at the same time, I think we have to take the allegations of the president's conduct seriously because they're all too consistent with what we showed during the trial.
And the president says the book is pure fiction.
Yeah, so I love how they keep mentioning patriotism.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're part of the propaganda wing. They're so part of the elites running things. This is a guy right here for 2 years, knowing that CrowdStrike had said they had no empirical evidence of Russia hacking our elections, and still went on lying and pushing this Cold War rhetoric. It was xenophobic at best. It was xenophobic, and I really, to tell you the truth, is there anybody should go to jail? It's Adam Schiff, and fam, plain and simple, straight theater. He's even got the makeup on for theater, or somebody should hit him with some makeup because he looks awful. I can't stand Adam Schiff. Nobody should listen to him. This is a bunch of bullshit anyways. It's a crock of shit.
Well, it's just, again, like he's saying what he's saying is true, but yeah, he should have said it earlier, and he wasn't patriotic. Are you kidding me? By imperialist measures, John Bolton was super patriotic with Iran and Venezuela. So let's not pretend otherwise. Now let's look at the truth, because John Bolton, as I said, and many others have said, is one of the biggest warmongers that we've ever had in this country. And Ajit Singh put up a great tweet that said, I believe what John Bolton says about China. He is an honest man who never lies to push for war. And there are several articles here from The Telegraph that state, the only mistake of the Iraq war was that we didn't get rid of Saddam Hussein, John Bolton. Then there's to stop Iran's bomb Iran, John Bolton from the New York Times opinion. From Insider Australia, former U.S. Ambassador John Bolton wants to target Gaddafi for assassination. Okay, and then the last one, Cuba seeks bioweapons, U.S. says. The Bush administration believes Cuba is developing biological weapons and collaborating with pariah states that have their own germs warfare programs. State Department Arms Control Chief John R. Bolton said yesterday. So again, here's imperialism, John Bolton, with regarding the Middle East.
It's laughable with this guy.
Regarding, I mean, he was just so ready to jump on war with the Middle East. He was hungry. He is far more dangerous than Trump. And here are the neoliberals saying, oh yes, he's right about Donald Trump. I mean, I just can't. I mean, how many more warmongers are we going to put on a pedestal and pray to just because of Donald Trump? It's ridiculous.
Biden just said, hold my beer.
Biden?
That's how many more. No, listen, they'll praise anybody who's against Donald Trump. We've proven that. Where you can see the list of characters, and it goes on. The fact that the left, I mean, when they were praising Henry Kissinger for, Hillary Clinton, I thought that was the worst it would get. But no, I mean, here you go, Lord Bolton, a modern-day imperialist psycho, and the left is putting him up. Why? Because they have TDS.
And let's not forget that The Intercept pointed out John Bolton is telling the truth, but let's not forget his horrible, dangerous career. And they just go through this whole article talking about his whole record as pushing war. And he's extremely right-wing. I mean, he's probably more right-wing than Donald Trump, absolutely 100%. And Bolton is extremely intelligent by the standards of the right wing and has a keen sense of own self-interest. His lies in the past have always been about people and nations weaker than him, who couldn't exact a price for his mendacity. By contrast, when he takes on those more powerful than him, such as the sitting president, we can be sure he's careful to have reality on his side. But whatever the merits of Bolton's new book, it's important to remember that he is no truth-telling hero. Here's a short list of some of his dreadful actions over his long and destructive career. And let's just read a couple of them. Bolton strenuously supported the Vietnam War, but just as strenuously opposed the idea of him personally having to fight it. Before graduating from Yale, he enlisted in Maryland National Guard to be sure he avoided combat. He later explained, "I have no desire to die in a Southeast Asian rice paddy," suggesting that he was generously providing an opportunity for someone who did want to die like that. Bolton shortly went on to intern for Vice President Spiro Agnew. Perhaps Bolton's most powerful impact on U.S. politics is the oldest and least known, his role as a baby right-wing lawyer destroying post-Watergate campaign finance reforms. In Bolton's memoir, he writes proudly of his efforts on the lawsuit of Buckley versus Valeo, which resulted in the 1976 Supreme Court decision that was more important than Citizens United. The ruling struck down limits on campaign finance expenditures and self-funding by super-rich candidates. As Bolton explains, everyone knew the decision in Buckley versus Valeo could determine the future shape of American politics. He was right. Without Buckley versus Valeo, Donald Trump would never have been able to spend the tens of millions of dollars of his own money to get elected and then hire Bolton. And he also had different positions in the Reagan administration. And he also joined the George W. Bush administration as an undersecretary for arms control. And he also succeeded in getting the Brazilian diplomat leader, Jose Bustani, ousted from his position also in the same year of 2002. So Bolton has so long of a history of imperialism, and not just abroad, but also even within the United States, working for people like George Bush. So for people to, in any way, shape, or form, saying this man is a hero is one of the most ignorant things, and I think we have to keep pounding on that Trump derangement syndrome. As horrible as Trump is, the system that created Trump was there, and Bolton was an architect of that system, just like Biden was as well. So
I remember when talking with Johnny, when we started to talk, about why Donald Trump hired Lord Bolton, because a lot of people were confused. A lot of people thought, and they hoped the day that Donald Trump got elected, well, hey, maybe he's going to have this kind of like libertarian, non-interventionist kind of style when it comes to foreign policy. I mean, he went after Jeb Bush, on stage in South Carolina in that debate to say that, the Iraq war was a lie and people died because of it, and it's your fault. So we kind of had hoped that. So we were trying to figure out, if Donald Trump is somewhat of a non-interventionist, why did he hire Lord Bolton? Well, I think some of us came up with the conclusion that he wanted to be the great negotiator. So why not have a psycho as your foreign policy advisor, where your enemies or your frenemies or people you're trying to work with geopolitically would say, hey, man, we got to take a deal from Donald Trump because Lord Bolton's there and Lord Bolton wants to bomb everybody back to the Stone Age. So that's why we thought at one point that maybe he was hired for that way. Well, it didn't work. And he ended up firing him anyways. But this is something, the day he got fired, a lot of people on the left, the true leftists, should have been happy. And in no way, shape, or form should they be praising him. And like you said, the sidestepping the theater of Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi, well, you know, he's doing a good job, but it's like 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. No, Lord Bolton was an imperialist to the highest degree. The fact that he's talking to you and telling you that Cuba is a threat, should just tell you everything that you need to know. He'll invade any country at any time, anywhere. He does not. So.
And yeah, and just as recently as a few days ago, John Bolton tweeted, "The House GOP is right to voice concerns about troop reductions in Europe. A smaller U.S. presence undermines the alliance, weakens efforts to deter Russia, and hurts readiness. There are no national security benefits to a U.S. draw down. Just problems, Republicans." So, and just problems.
He's stuck in a Cold War mentality. He won't, you know what I'm saying? This is a
exactly.
Guy. And the fact is, I didn't even know he ditched war, too, fam. I'm glad you educated me on that. The guy refused to go to war himself, joined the National Guard, so he hadn't done. He said he didn't want to die in a rice paddy, but he has no problem sending other people off to die in rice paddies, fam.
So again, Glory Jones here had a really great tweet, and she said, "Breaking: Donald Trump aligns himself with Max Blumenthal in calling for Secretary Pompeo to be held accountable for his crimes by the ICC." So Max Blumenthal changed his Twitter name right there to prosecute Pompeo to ICC, and Donald Trump had retweeted before he did that, and it's just hilarious. And he said, "John Bolton, a notoriously mendacious enemy of all living beings on the planet, is discovering what every other great Republican hope of the resistance has. Liberals will eagerly lap up any piece of hysterical Cold War propaganda if they think it can be leveraged against Trump." And Donald Trump retweeted that. It is hilarious.
Wow.
I think that is funny.
Max Blumenthal must be so proud. Max, you're going to vote for it. Trump or Biden? You know,
I would venture to say he's not going to vote for either of them. Speaking of Donald J. Trump, the Donald, the Trumper.
The John.
The silent majority is stronger than ever before. #MAGA. So I want to discuss with you, fam, because I kind of have a nuanced perspective on the Tulsa rally. So what happened was that a bunch of Zoomers, Vanessa's age and below, they went on and they bought fake tickets to, not bought, but requested, because it was free, fake tickets to the Tulsa rally, making Trump think that 1 million people were going to show up. And then, of course, when the day came, a lot of them were fake. And so they didn't show up. So Donald Trump posted some cropped photos of his rally. And you guys can see it's a decent, looks decent. Okay. But then when we go down into the thread, you're going to see what it really looked like. It wasn't entirely full at the top. And also, here, they had to cancel their events on the overflow crowd. There's the main floor right there. There's a lot of space. Okay. And there's just a bunch of pictures of people saying that's not true. Like, there's so many empty seats. And he lied, that he's making it look like it was bigger than it was. Okay. So yes, while it's funny to see Trump fail and to see like all these people not show up and to see that it's not as big as he thought it would be, here's the thing. Since when have Democrats cared about crowd size? I remember when Bernie Sanders was having his rallies that had way more than this, pre-coronavirus, of course. Democrats were saying, that doesn't matter. Those numbers don't matter. All of a sudden, it now matters that Donald Trump only had about 7,000 people at the rally. First of all, it's coronavirus. 7,000 people at a rally is still a significant amount, especially because conservatives tend to really just vote. there's some of the people that always vote more than liberals, and I'm saying liberals specifically. They vote more. They don't necessarily go to as many events, but they will show up on the day to vote. Another thing is that Joe Biden. Let's talk about how many people Joe Biden has gotten in office. He had I think tops of 300 people at one time show up to a little event he had, and people are acting like, okay, yeah, so Trump is obviously going to lose because he had only 7,000 people show up. And I'm like, wait a minute, how many people has Joe Biden had at all? So I just think this is the dumb thing that the establishment does, especially the establishment media and the neoliberals. They act like this is a win when it's not, because you're basing it on rallies now that all of a sudden you care about, but also post-coronavirus, and also that it was purposely made that way. What do you think about that?
It just shows you how desperate the neoliberal establishment is right now. The fact they're going after Donald Trump for only getting 7,000 people at a rally during the coronavirus, despite the little tricks that went on. Fam, we know when it push comes to shove, the Trumpers are going to be out there. It's going to take a lot to beat this guy. We were in New Hampshire, and we saw his rallies there right after the impeachment trial, and it ended, and they just energized his base. And like you said, who are the neoliberals to even talk anyways? Hillary Clinton couldn't fill a high school gymnasium after the Democratic primary had been, swung to her favor after the convention. Nobody wanted to go see it, even when Bernie was with her. So, they can say everything they want. They're just trying to spin it, fam. It's optics. It might fool a couple people. But for the smart people out there, they're going to understand and know that Donald Trump is going to take a lot to be beaten. And sure as hell is not going to be beaten by a guy like Joe Biden. But hey, maybe they got it fixed. I don't know. But if I'm the Democratic establishment, and they're so behind, they just push their propaganda. That's all they can do is push stories like this. But it ain't gonna work.
And like I said,
it's
not. Yeah, it's COVID, and I think it's funny that that happened. I'm like, okay, it's hilarious, but do not set your bets. Do not hedge your bets on that, because Joe Biden cannot fill anything. Nobody. I think somebody said yesterday that they saw Joe Biden sign in LA, and I'm like, wow, who is that? Who saw it? Where? Because I haven't seen one, and he can't fill a room up, a normal room up. And to me, it's ridiculous that we are creating this false hope that somehow Biden's just gonna beat him and everything's gonna be okay, and that's just it. And it's ridiculous, and I think it just works against them. And I think I agree with you. Joe Biden's gonna be it's gonna be difficult for him to beat Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump has made a lot of mistakes that he shouldn't have made, as far as trying to keep the independents and those libertarians with his more interventionist policies, which is anti-China rhetoric and all these things that he has lost people on. He hasn't had the best response to COVID at all. He has been incentivizing his base against the whole Black Lives Matter, against the police brutality issue. And I think that's hurt him, but I also think he's catering to his base, and I think this is what he does. He sells, he's a con man, and I think his base is actually more dangerous than he is. And we were talking about that the other day. I think Donald Trump, half the time, doesn't even believe in what he says, but he's using it to create the incentivize these people. Unfortunately, it's worked, but it's also revealed a lot of the things that needed to be revealed. And so I still think he's going to be difficult to beat. So
I still think he's going to win. And don't get me wrong, before the COVID situation, I thought he was pretty strong at locking up. I thought if Bernie even came through, it's going to be a tough battle. I thought Bernie had a chance, but I thought it would be tough. And during this COVID pandemic, man, did he leave himself so vulnerable, the way he's acted and everything. It's just a shame that this year of all years, we have Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee, Howie Hawkins is the Green Party nominee, who's not a bad candidate, but it's just not going to, once again, the lack of leadership from Howie, he just doesn't seem like a strong guy. And the Libertarian candidate, what a crap year to have no other alternatives out there that are really, really viable, especially on the Libertarian and Green Party side. My God, if the Green Party was smart, what they would step aside and get Jesse on that ticket. Because Donald Trump is so vulnerable right now, but we have nobody stepping up to go after him. Glory Jones left the super chat, by the way.
Oh, what did it say?
It said it was a good troll, but the fact that the liberals were more proud of us for this than protesting systemic racism for a month straight pisses me off.
Yeah.
So she's like saying it's the fact that they're proud of us trolling him like this because she's talking about she was part of those. Yeah, let's go fuck around
she's
with
a Zoomer.
People have a good time, and they're proud of her for this, but not for them. No, Glory, they were proud of you. Didn't you see them get on a knee with the scarves?
Yeah, it's Glory. Fam, and guess what? This is
What?
why the VP situation gets me really irritated, because people are like, well, who would you pick if Biden chose Warren or Harris and blah, blah, blah. I don't care who Biden picks. I don't care that Amy Klobuchar
What if you pick Bernie?
Dropped out. I don't know if I could still vote for that at this point.
I think I could. I mean, I can't stand Biden, but I don't know.
I'd have to make sure they don't kill Bernie.
I'm as pissed as can be at Bernie right now, but if he had put him on the ticket,
he's not going to, I guess, is the thing. He wouldn't. That's the thing. The Democrats want Bernie Sanders as far away as possible. They want progressives as far away as possible. They have shown that time and time again. And of course, Klobuchar withdrew and from the Veep stakes, and she said Biden should pick a woman of color. And then later on, subsequently, Elizabeth Warren was completely pushed out in a subtle way, because Elizabeth Warren isn't a woman of color unless you consider her 16%.
I see
Native
the memes
American.
out there with the women of color. I mean, Warbuchar is done now. No Warbuchar.
Yeah. No Warbuchar. So it's looking like Kamala Harris. But here's the thing: everybody keeps discussing what if it's Kamala Harris? What if? I don't think it matters. I think Joe Biden is the candidate, and the Democratic Party has lost so much credibility that maybe if he picked Bernie or Tulsi, that's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. They're never going to pick somebody like that because they don't care. They're stupid. They're not stupid, but they're stupid in a sense of thinking that it doesn't matter, because either way, even if Biden loses and Trump wins, the status quo remains. If Biden wins and Trump loses, the status quo
It's a step back,
remains.
isn't it? Isn't it a step back then, fam? We've talked about this. Biden wins over Trump. It's a step back. I think I'd rather deal with 4 years of Trump than 8 years of Biden.
I think it's a step back for us who are big picture thinkers, but I think for a lot of people, they'd feel good about getting Donald Trump out. And I think that's the problem too, because I think it's chess, not checkers. So I think, you can try to get the knight right away and get rid of it, but you really want to go after the queen in a few moves. And if you make a mistake and try to go for the big push right away, it's going to hurt you in the long run. And I think that's how people have to think about it. I think a Biden presidency would be 8 or 12 years of a neoliberal president, and then an extremely right-wing president right after. If we even have that much time in this country. I mean, everything's falling apart. The Arctic is at over 100 degrees, and it's crazy, and we have to choose between stupid and stupid. I mean, it's so depressing, and there is no candidate right now.
Well, two things. Number one, if there's ever a time for Jesse Ventura right now for the Green Party, if the Green Party was serious about getting over that 5%, and once again, I'm not saying that he would win. I would just love to see him on the debate stage. For me, Jesse's the best candidate out there. I mean, he's better than Tulsi in my mind, because he's had the mayor and the governor experience. Not to say that she wasn't a congresswoman, but, this guy has had a libertarian mindset and has kind of moved towards the Green platform because he believes in what racial equality, a Green New Deal. Plus, he believes in civil liberties, and he's written books about the imperialism, the secret empire that we talk about. You know what I'm saying? He's called it out for years in every single situation, all the way back to the Gulf of Tonkin. So, I mean, if there's ever a time for somebody to step aside, please, Green Party, Howie Hawkins, get aside, get this guy in here now. You're going to at the very least, get above that 5% and make a viable third party. You will change the whole landscape of elections in this country for a long time if you did that. But I don't see it happening, unfortunately. And the second thing I'd like to say is, fam, you said we were playing chess, not checkers, because that's the way we are. I'd like everybody to know, watch the Convo couch, that I am the #1 ranked chess player in the house.
You are not the #1 ranked chess player. Are you crazy?
Awesome.
I got bored of playing with you because you kept playing the wrong moves.
I beat
you did not beat me.
You quit. Well,
no, I did not quit.
With Johnny, but
oh my God.
more players than he had one.
I did not
I
quit.
had 4 pieces. And
You
then
guys-
you quit, so
We
number
still
1
made it.
ranking of the House of Chess Player is
No,
right
you
over
are not
here.
the number 1 ranking. No, Pasta. I beat my entire
Worst
middle
in the
school.
house.
In chess. There's no way. I beat the nerdiest guy in chess. Come on. Like, this is a secret.
You
y'all
are
don't
good
know.
at chess, but I am the number 1 ranked player because you quit
No,
the
you are
game.
not the number 1. Guys, who do you really think is better at chess? Pasta or I? I mean, let's be real here. Come on. Let's leave it up to the Convo couchers. The fans.
Can I tell you something?
Fans.
I'm glad that you stopped playing that game because you had me like I like every single time I made a move, I was like, Fiorella would counter with another move, but I'd be, oh shit. Fiorella, I would go, and then she'd be like, oh. So we got to a point that you really had me on the ropes. Like I was like, I wasn't seeing my way out of it, and I just kept quiet, and you didn't play, and I was like, I took the victory.
No, you can't take the victory. It's
I made
still
the last
ongoing.
move, fam.
I can go
I made
back.
the last move.